Hello everyone, this is Masami, health intuitive, and I'm here joined with Chris. And today we wanted to make this video that is a little bit of a controversial topic, but we felt the need to share our thoughts on celebrating Mother's Day, especially when Mother's Day brings up a lot of painful memories and when it's not all flowers and Hallmark cards and brunches and gifts. So I remember years ago when I was working at a local flower shop, I learned that the Mother's Day was always the busiest day of the year and accounts for 1/4 of all flowers purchased for the holidays. In fact, it is the most observed holiday in the US, and it's the third most popular holiday in the world, behind only Christmas and Easter. Mother's Day is a celebration honoring mother of the family or individual, as well as motherhood, maternal bonds, and the influence of mothers in society. It certainly is a sacred day, for sure, when you have the chance to acknowledge and cherish the person who has given you life, raised and nurtured you with love and courage. But there is another side to this widely celebrated day. And that side can feel darker and painful for many of us. So what if you were one of those sons and daughters who struggled with the narcissistic mother growing up? Or you didn't receive the heart-centered love and unconditional nurturing from her, or society says you should expect. Perhaps your mom was absent or lost in her own struggles and couldn't attend to your needs required for you to thrive. So you survived, but maybe you had a harder time thriving. Well, I was one of those daughters. And these experiences, especially during your childhood and formative years, leave scars inside you. And Mother's Day may stir up deep emotional pain for those of us who didn't have or grow up with mothers that met Hallmark cards and maybe idealized cultural expectations. The legacy of distorted love and the memories of non-loving or downright mean mothers, according to psychotherapist Carol McBride, is a kind of post-traumatic stress trigger that challenges the deepest layers of who we are as human beings.
And this is something that many of us can relate to, even if it's not on the most extreme side of this experience. I can say for myself, I spent a lot of years, I had difficulty with my own mother and our relationship, where I walked through those hallmarky kind of moments where I might write a card or give flowers or do something like that, but feel that real deep, dark sense of disconnection and feeling like something was wrong with me, that I didn't feel connected to the way that the culture around me was celebrating this holiday. So for those of you that might find yourself in this category too, here are some ideas. And these are ideas that honor both your own experience of maybe having not a great connection with your own biological mother. Many of us have had that. And it's also something that honors your own experience in the spirit of honoring anyone who has been that mother to you in your life as we come into this weekend of celebrating mothers and Mother's Day. So let's just start with the first ideas. We've got a short list here of about 5 or 6 things to share with you. First of all, everyone has a mother, or they have somebody who's been like a mother to them. So let's just start there. Let's honor these women or these mother figures who have supported us and nurtured us, even where our own biological mother or birth mother hasn't been the one who stood by us and supported us as we were growing up. And you might notice that Mother's Day is actually apostrophe S. It's that single mother. It was never really designed to be a collective mother experience that we're celebrating, although we can definitely look at it like that as a culture. And we can celebrate all of these mother figures together that have supported us in our life. And there are also other kinds of presences that were supported for us and that have been there when we needed them so that we could grow and thrive and be here today. Even if it was a bumpy ride, they helped us get here. And so you might recall seeing images and scenes of calves and kittens and puppies and other animals whose mothers lick them very lovingly. It's a very sweet scene, that seeing these animal mothers lick their babies all over their bodies when they're first born. And it's almost like it's trying to wake up their own life, their hidden prana, the life force in them, the potential that is in them. And these animals, they need that caring affection to survive and then to grow into healthy adults, just like we do. And it's even said that if they don't get licked all over everywhere on their bodies, that they may not even survive. So it's a very key step to have this maternal attention and care given to us. So you might not have received all of those loving actions from your own mom when you were born or when you were growing up, but there's something somewhere along the way in your life that has given you enough for you to be here today. So let's just try to remember what those presences might have been for you. And in a way, we can look at these as a kind of inner refuge. So what was your inner refuge that you had growing up that you could reach out to and count on? Maybe it was a pet, like a dog or a cat, or maybe it was a special tree or a rock that you could go and be with that you could count on. Could have been another person, though. For many of us, it was a grandmother. It could have been a friend's mother or even a teacher. So just pause and take a moment to consider who or what might have been that supportive inner refuge and presence that helped to bring you a stable point that got you through to growing into being an adult.
The second one will be realize that the idealized expectations of motherhood and mothers are impossible to meet. And this is for almost all mothers. So maybe just pause for a moment and look what was happening in your own mom's life, your mother's life, when she had you and when she was raising you. During that time, what was happening historically? What was happening in the context of the cultural time that she was giving you birth and raising you, or not really fully engaged in raising you? And this really helps to practice your own empathy and compassion for her, but it really helps to expand your inner heart center and your inner capacity to love and heal from within. So that will be the second thing that we recommend. And number three will be, through this painful experience, you're here to find who you are truly and deeply. So there's this gift that through this painful experiences you received. So again, pause for a moment and ponder what you have been through, first of all. Reflect about possible gifts you received and gained by not having an empathetic and caring and loving mother in your life. That was your maybe birth mother or the person that raised you. And what are some of the life tools bestowed upon you because of these challenges and these challenging experiences? Maybe you gained strengths to get through hardships, tenacity, resilience, resourcefulness is a big one, definitely for me. And abilities to counsel your own journey, that's a big one. Being the ambassador for yourself, and certainly learn to mother your own needs, and as an adult too, and maybe as a child, you learn to mother yourself the best you could. So this is a strength and gifts that you want to pause and celebrate during this Mother's Day weekend also. And celebrate your own motherhood as a mother of your own child and maybe your children too. How you have evolved as a mother to your own children. That came from your hardships as well, because you learned from that, learned what to do and what not to do, and how you cared for yourself throughout your own journey up to this point. And you have had the chance to dive deeply into your own soul journey and self-discovery because of this. And maybe you became a universal mother archetype. You know, there are many, many archetypes, but the universal mother is a very necessary archetype, which we'll talk about at the end of this video a little bit. So there's so many ways that you can show up as the mother archetype for others. And I would say that certainly my work has shown that for me, that I've learned how to work with others as a kind of the mother figure, as a somebody that cares for the client's health and well-being. So I'm going to pass it to Chris now for the fourth suggestion that we have.
So this is something that by this point, you'll know if this is describing your experience or not. And if it is, please follow along and do these practices. And if it isn't directly your experience, you probably, in fact, almost certainly know somebody who has had this experience. And it's helpful to understand what they've been going through as well. So let's take a little bit of time here and just note that it's important to set aside time for you to actually acknowledge and feel whatever gets stirred up inside of you. It might be pain or frustration or even a sense of guilt or shame that you're not conforming to the norms and the expectations that are happening around a powerful holiday like this, that's so central to our lives with mothers. So just allow whatever needs to come up and happen in its own time, and especially as we are in the Mother's Day weekend and the approach to that, that's when a lot of these things can be stirred. So what I'd like to introduce here is a quick practice. It's just called the 90-second practice. And this is a kind of practice that involves simply staying with it as these feelings come up. And it's quite healing. So just a word about that is that these emotional triggers that will get stirred up during something like Mother's Day weekend, these are kind of like the red flags in our system that activate the chemical changes in our body when it goes on full alert, when it goes into that stress mode, fight, flight, or freeze response. And what's interesting is that even though they're so intense and they can be very overpowering, they only last for about 90 seconds before our bodies flush out the chemicals of stress and emotion. So if we can just stay with it, and setting a timer can actually help, but if we can stay with that discomfort and the unpleasant feelings whenever they come up for just that 90-second window, they will naturally pass on their own. And then we can just get back to resuming our lives and living and doing what we need to do. So let's just practice sitting for 90 seconds. So you have a sense of what that's like, and you can do this for yourself anytime. And just sit. You just notice what's going on. I'm not going to give any other instructions. Just notice where you are and what's with you starting now. Okay, let's come back just to normal engagement and check your body, check your breath. That might have felt like a really long time. It might have felt really fast. I can tell you for myself, just the energy of kind of coming and speaking that it's a little bit tense in the diaphragm really just reset and relaxed in that 90 seconds. And what's important to remember here is something that comes from the Harvard brain scientist Jill Bolte Taylor, who says that when a person has a reaction to something in their environment, Could be anything, it could be internal or external. There's a 90-second chemical process that happens in the body. Okay. The 90-second chemical process is that stress response, that clutch and the feelings of anxiety and all the things that come up. So continuing on, Jill Bolte Taylor says, after that 90 seconds, any remaining emotional response is just the person choosing to stay in that emotional loop. Okay. So after the 90 seconds, if you're still feeling the charge, you need to check in with yourself and see if you're not provoking it and continuing it unnaturally, artificially, because on its own, the body will clear that charge and let it pass so that it can move on with the business of living. So try this, check it out, see how it affects your own body and system to do the 90-second practice. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to Masami now to give you a couple more tips that you can look at during this weekend.
Thank you, Chris. So number 5, respect and honor your own healthy boundaries. So you may need to create space or distance from the relationship if it is still toxic or damaging. I have chosen not to contact my own mother, and it is my choice that I made to honor who I am and what I need at this time in my life. And that's the boundary that I am going to honor right now. But it is important that we revisit and revise and maybe reassess your own approach as necessary, right? As you go through your life, because the boundaries may change for you. But I think it's also important that you honor that decision, whatever it is today, and do your very best to lovingly hold that decision for yourself. Because the society, and I've had this happen to me many, many times, others will recommend that you reestablish connections with your own mother or reconnect with her. And I have found a very peaceful place in my heart right now not to connect with my own mother right now. So just be organic with this process. It's important that we don't harden within ourselves, that we don't harden our heart center. But at the same time, we also need some healing time, and that may require you to distance yourself. And I was able to do this with my own father. And I told myself, and I actually heard clearly from my dying father in 2016, that we are going to have a very different level of connections and a different frequencies of relationships after he left his body, physical body. And I have been really growing with him since 2016, since he passed away from this earthly matter. So I'm just giving you that as a suggestion that the opening, maybe the relationships could happen even after your mother has left the physical body as well. So let's just hold the boundaries with respect and honor for yourself, but hold it with loving, not too rigid grip. Okay, so it's the loving, but not so hard. And the last suggestion that we have for you is to incorporate some of the mother figures and mother goddesses, archetypes are fine, in the world while you're contemplating your own journey through the difficulties that you went through with your own mother. So goddesses like Gaia, Durga, Mother Mary for sure. And for me, that mother goddess has been Kuan Yin. So I have several Kuan Yin statues in my house, but she reminds me how to hold myself with loving gaze and embrace. So hopefully you have some examples of that. Maybe Chris has something that he may want to share here. But I hope this video was helpful for you so far to kind of stop and pause and look into what struggles you've been going through. And especially around the struggles around and the pressures around having to celebrate Mother's Day. And that brings up a lot of painful history for you, because that is what happens to me. And it's hard when especially the world celebrates Mother's Day greatly, which I welcome it, but there's a painful side that shows up. I'm going to just quickly hand it over to Chris and see if he has something else to add before we wrap up this video.
Just a few closing thoughts are it's whatever you need is what you need to honor. So there's no script here. If you've had a difficult experience with your own mother, that's okay. That's what it is. Let it be, but acknowledge it, honor it, and maybe some of these things that we practiced and introduced here could be helpful to you. But then also, like Masami said, these archetypal mothers, the earth itself, Mother Gaia. You might have a connection, an affinity to another figure, like Masami said with Kuan Yin or Mother Mary, or even Durga, the universal mother. And I really like that particular image of the universal mother. There is something that holds all of us and gives potential to all of our lives, whether or not we have that direct emotional relationship with our own birth mother. So I'll hand it back to Masami for closing thoughts, but thank you for watching. And hopefully whatever your situation is, you can navigate it with love and self-love and openness and receptivity to what the situation actually is, not just what society tells us it should be.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for that. And I look forward to consciously going through some of these suggestions myself over the weekend, over the next couple of days, and expand my own heart capacity and shine brightly as who I am. And we both look forward to reading your comments and maybe the aha stuff that you've had by watching this video. So till next time, thank you. Namaste, everyone.